Hey guys, what's going on? So today I'm talking about three different books for reading with Rob. I want to try this, see if it works. I've got the virtual background, which is a little confusing because I don't know which way to point. But the first one I'm going to talk about is Caste by Isabel Wilkinson. And if you haven't heard of this book, you should. It's a New York Times bestseller. And again, with the virtual background, it's a little hard here, but Cast the Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. Isabel Wilkerson is an African American writer, and she's very good. And it reads part like anthropology, history lesson, memoir. But basically, what Cast gets to is essentially comparing um, racism and the history of the United States with places where the caste system is in place currently, such as India, and the similarities and how basically caste has all these invisible forces that we don't even realize because we're born into this world without realizing the powers that be. And so you have to dig a little bit deeper to see why things are the way they are and basically explain history. And it goes, everything from World War II, the Third Reich, to, as I said, India and the current situation there with their caste system, and then our own civil rights and indigenous struggles, where we, of course, have a sad history of violence and genocide against Native Americans, and then, of course, slavery, and then the civil rights struggle with African Americans, and then various other immigrant groups and how their struggle kind of relates to what the social situation is in India. It's a great book. It's wonderful. One of the things that I get out of it is, you know, someone else's perspective, which I think is always good to read. That's why I like reading African American authors or any author from a different background, because I will never know fully what it's like to walk around in the United States with another skin color because I just can't. Now, I can relate to it in some ways because when I travel abroad, perhaps I'm in another country and I'm the only pale skinned guy around. I can kind of get a feeling for what the other feels like. But to walk around and live in that skin in a situation like the United States, I will never know. And so this helps provide some insight. And if you are an empathetic creature, you will be able to relate a lot better after reading it. So I highly recommend Cast. I'm sorry that the virtual thing keeps taking it out. There it is, The Origins of Our Discontents, Isabel Wilkerson. There's a documentary as well, and that's how I learned about the book. I forget the name of the documentary, but I highly recommend it. The next book I'm going to talk about is this one, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. Let me pull back, try to get this in the frame here. I don't understand. There we go. Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doughty, I think. So this again was a book that I picked up after seeing a documentary about natural burial. I was in Tennessee and I saw, I think it was a local show on PBS about the movement for natural burial to get away from formaldehyde and unnatural, the coffin, and basically just talked about our death industry in the United States. And at that point in time, I'm really curious and still am about having a natural burial for myself and what's involved in that. And so this book was referenced quite a bit. This book sounds like it might be depressing. It is not. Caitlin takes a very humorous approach, but a very heartfelt approach to death and dying. And she cares about her subject matter and she grows. Basically, it's her time in a crematorium in California, Northern California, in San Francisco, not that long ago. So it's really talking about the industry of death and just other alternatives that you may want to consider. And as I said, it's a light read, believe it or not, despite the subject matter. What is not a light read, but is a good read, is this one. One day, everyone will have been against this. It is by Omar El Akkad, author of American War. So this is not, as I said, a light read. It's an easy read, but it's not. You're not going to have a spring in your step after reading this book because it is about Gaza. It is about the current war, which of course currently has a ceasefire. Thank goodness, as the date that I'm recording it, it's a very tenuous ceasefire. But at the time that it was written, it was before the election of the current president, and it talks about the disappointment as a Muslim man. He is, as an Arab man, I should say, he offers a perspective that I think is very important for people to understand. You can feel the heartbreak in Omar's writing. You can see a lot of what I feel, with Ukraine quite often, which is just searing pain when you have people that you care about just getting decimated. And it is worth everyone's read. And especially if you are getting a narrative, I think that, I've seen a lot on social media, and it really scares me a little bit how tunnel vision people can be about this particular war on one side or the other, where they refuse, probably because of the history, probably because of our social media situation where it feeds you information, but just the lack of empathy towards, the events, for example, of October 7th, which led to the current, most recent travesty there, but also, the history that goes back to the 1940s, and then the extreme overreaction that has occurred since then, which I think history is still going to write. And so the point of this book is that one day, when all of that history is written, just like in Ukraine, when all of the war crimes, when you see that Bucha was not an isolated incident, for example, in Ukraine, all these people, everyone who was so gung ho with got to kill the terrorist, speaking about Gaza, or, we need to take care of ourselves first, speaking about helping Ukraine, they will go silent, they will slither away, and they will pretend that one day they were also against what is essentially genocide. That's what that book is about. Caste, smoke gets in your eyes. One day everyone will always have been against this. Three very good reads. Something more anthropological is Caste. Something that is more humorous, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, but a great subject matter. And something that is heartbreaking, but an important read is One Day Everyone Will Always Have Been Against This. I recommend all three. If you're looking for something to read, you could not go wrong with any one of these three books. Thanks for stopping by Reading with Rob and putting up with my virtual set here. We'll work on it, try to get it a little bit better next time. Thanks.